Hello quarantine printmaking friends, and welcome back. I've been playing around for a while and I've found a few tips that'll help you guys print those dry points a little bit better. So I tried buffering it with some extra paper and I got a little bit better of a print. That's this one right here. But the lines were still not very clear. And then I found a way to get some really clear lines. So that's what I'm going to be showing you guys today. So you're going to need a few things for that. Obviously you're still going to need your towel, the brayer if you have it to help with taking some of that excess water out. I've got a tray over here with a few sheets of paper that have been soaking for about 45 minutes. And I've got a few round objects over here. Now this is the one that one of my students showed on the Zoom meeting the other day. This is a tennis ball, so thanks to Rebecca and her dad for showing this on the Zoom meeting. So this was really helpful. But I've got a few other backups, so if you guys don't have a tennis ball, don't go running to the store to get a tennis ball, and don't steal one from your pet. I've got a paperweight here, which I used to think was useless, but this one actually did the best job. I've got some smooth river stones here, and I've got a marble. So I'm going to show you guys how each of those work, and that's this print here. I've got my palette knife. I mixed up a little bit more of that charcoal ink, and I got a little bit finer of the pigment by shaving off the side using the palette knife. I've got my plate over here. You're also going to need some thin paper. Newsprint is the best. I was watching some videos and some other people using this method at home, and they were using newsprint as a tarlatan substitute. I don't have any around here, but I was using some pages from the phone book. If you don't have that though, and this is mostly for my students, I found that notebook paper is a good enough substitute, so that's what I'm going to be using today. So you're going to go ahead and take your plate, same procedure, and you're going to get some of that ink. Now this time, you guys are going to take the ink and you're going to still pull it at that 90-degree angle, trying to work it into the lines. But then you're going to take some extra and you're going to lay it flat across the top of the image areas. You don't really need to get it in the non-image areas. It's kind of a waste of ink, especially if you've made your own and you don't have too much of that. It's pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and set this aside. Now I'm going to take some of that notebook paper, and what I'm going to do is use this to buff the ink down into the lines. Normally we'd be using a tarlatan for this, but my students don't have any of that, and I don't know how many of you have that at home. So I'm going to push down, not really hard. And what this is doing is rubbing the excess ink off the top of the plate and pushing more of that ink down into the lines. I don't know if you guys can see that starting to happen. Try to keep your paper flat, and then as soon as it gets dirty, kind of fold it over. Now you can see. Now once you see that you've got most of it off, you can stop rubbing. I'm going to go ahead and get another piece of paper and fold it over. You don't have to be super aggressive with this. And especially for those of you that made your own ink, this ink tends to be a little more fragile than store-bought ink. That looks pretty good. I'm going to wipe the edges. I'm going to stop there. Now I'm going to go ahead and get one of my pieces of paper that's been soaking. I'm going to move this aside. Move these examples aside. Go ahead and blot it. Like I said, if you guys don't have a brayer, just use your hands. just as good. I'm going to go ahead and move this out of the way. Go ahead and place your paper on top of your plate. Now this is the method that my student Rebecca and her father showed on the Zoom. They had cut this in half and turned it inside out. I found that this isn't necessary. I would still put the buffer paper on top, and you can just kind of roll it in your hand here. And if you peek, you can see that you're getting a transfer. Now, what I found that worked better, I have a couple different marbles here. I'll show you guys the stone because that's probably the most common thing you guys are going to have. Especially if you have a stone, put the buffer paper, because if you rub back and forth it will damage the wet paper. It will pill, as I said before. If we peek, you're getting some really clear lines. Here's a bigger river stone. This one's a little less smooth, so it's going to rip the paper a little bit. So if you can find a smoother one, that'll work better, but the pressure is working really well. The best thing was this really large round paperweight that I had, but a small marble will work as well. I'll show you guys the small marble. So I'm just going to put it down, put my hand on top of it, the palm of my hand, and just kind of roll it around. Now the smaller the marble, the longer this is going to take, but if you look at this tiny area right here that I just printed, that looks absolutely gorgeous. Now let's look at this larger paperweight here. Same thing, a little bit of a larger area. Just going to turn the plate here and see how much of this I can get printed real quick. You can also try rubbing it. Go ahead and take a peek. And that is coming out really, really nice. Now I found that rolling the round object will give you a better transfer and will shift the paper less than if you are pulling it back and forth. Almost done. Get down here at the bottom. Yep. And I missed a few spots, but you guys get the idea. And so far this is the clearest impression that I've managed to get without a press. So if you can find yourself a large, heavy, round object like a marble or even a small one, that'll do the transfer for you. Or if you can find a river stone, that'll work. So go ahead and play around with that and see if you guys can get some better results. And I'll see you guys on the next video where I show you how to do clay monoprints.